If you've watched the first video I ever posted here at The Curious Listener, then you know that I am, I guess, what you would call a Neil Young super fan or whatever. It was called Why Rick Beato Was Wrong About Neil Young. I got a bit miffed at Rick, and I still am, for impugning Neil for being a one-note guitar solo guy who had no business being on Rolling Stone's top 250 guitarist list. I vehemently disagree with Rick. And I guess it's the vehemence of my disagreement that has attracted more than 40,000 views and 858 comments on that video since I posted it. And my favorite comment among the 858 is this one. This guy is more passionate about Neil Young than I am about anything. And hey, maybe I am. Okay, maybe I am. But I said that up front here to make one thing clear, which is I am not that super fan who thinks that everything his favorite artist touches is gold, okay? In fact, it's been 13 years since I have heard any new studio output from Neil that really grabbed me and shook me the way his greatest work always has done. That record 13 years ago was Psychedelic Pill, a double album with Crazy Horse. There's a good number of really great songs on there. The title track, Psychedelic Pill, two versions of it, by the way. There was this sort of more psychedelic version of it with some effects added to it, and there was this raw, unadorned version as well. Both of them are great. Both are these tight electric rockers that just blaze with the old Neil Young fire from first note to last that we come to associate with his greatest rock. Other tracks on there were great, things like She's Always Dancing. But man, I guess it must be me because I lost my way as a fan since then. I have really struggled with the stuff he's put out since. I mean, A Letter Home in 2014 was this odd curiosity. He recorded in some kind of like sonic booth or something. I forget all the details there. It had some interesting moments. A couple of cool Phil Ochs covers, I believe, on there, right? I didn't understand Storytone in 2014. Monsanto Years in 2015, same thing. It felt musically inaccessible to me, even while I appreciated that record's political sentiments. Peace Trail in 2016 was even less accessible to me. That record, I believe, went down as one of the worst-selling albums of Neil Young's entire career. Not that sales are any barometer for quality, hardly, not at all. But still, that's a fact. Then he gets back with Crazy Horse, which was cool. That's always exciting when Neil Young wants to spook the horse one more time, as he likes to put it. Nils Lofgren joins the lineup again for the first time since he was a teenager, recording Tonight's the Night with Neil. And they put out Colorado in 2019, Barn in 2021, World Record in 2022. These were earnest records that had their moments musically, even if lyrically they tended toward the hokier side at times. So all of this is to say that when I was surprised on January 17th this year to learn that Neil Young, at age 79, is still at it, putting out yet another new song, I felt very skeptical. I was afraid, frankly, to queue it up on Spotify because I thought, here's this guy I revere, this guy who's probably my favorite artist of all time. And I just don't want to set myself up for the kind of disappointment or bewilderment or both that his more recent work for more than a decade now has engendered in me. Okay, so it took a lot to tap on this one on Spotify driving around, and that those hesitancies are exactly why this track brought tears to my eyes. This is easily the most scorching and booming rocker Neil Young has released since Psychedelic Pill. And it belongs up there with the great rock anthems of the 21st century that Neil has put out. I mean, things like Angry World from 2010's Le Noise, which was won him one of only 2 Grammys in his entire career. Can you believe that? If anything testifies to the irrelevance of the Grammy Awards, it's the fact that Neil Young has only earned 2 Grammys, one of which was for the design on a box set. Okay. Finally, the Grammys like, this guy, listen to this. This is some pretty good rock and roll here. Angry World, huh? 2010. Finally wins a Grammy for his music. Just Singing a Song or Light a Candle from 2009's Fork in the Road are brilliant classics. Just Singing a Song is one of the meatiest, rockingest anthems of his entire life. Devil's Sidewalk or Be the Rain from 2003's Greendale. I'm looking around for my guitar. Don't get me started. Devil's Sidewalk's the first Neil Young song I ever learn on guitar, I have half a mind to play it for you here, but no one wants that. I'll refrain. No Wonder or When God Made Me from 2005's wonderful record Prairie Wind. He comes out with Chrome Dreams 2 in 2007 with some blistering rockers on there. Spirit World, No Hidden Path. So you see in his 60s and 70s, Neil has put up plenty of great stuff. I am not one of those people who just clicks your ears off, with these artists in their 70s or even 80s. When it comes to anything recorded after like 1972, I am much more open-minded than that. I love plenty of what this dude put out in the 80s, in the 90s, in the aughts, in the 2010s. But the back half of the 2010s is when I start to fall off as a fan. Okay. So, I just figured those days were done when Neil put out urgent, vital, fresh-sounding music like that. So I cue up Big Change, which is the name of this new song that he puts together with this band he assembled. It's a newish band, as one source described it that I found online. He's calling them the Chrome Hearts. There's not a whole lot new about these dudes, though, in Neil Young's orbit. Willie Nelson's son, Micah Nelson, on guitar, was part of Neil Young's prior band, Promise of the Real. Micah clearly absolutely worships Neil Young's music and Neil Young the man. It's quite apparent from their camaraderie, their rapport on stage. Micah is a blazing guitar slayer and loves digging into these meaty Neil Young rock songs. He's an electrifying performer alongside Neil on stage, and he's part of this Chrome Hearts group now. You also have organist and keyboard genius Spooner Oldham, who's been recording songs with Neil Young since like the Mesozoic era, so they go back a while. All right, nothing new about Spooner, that's for damn sure. They've been making music together for more than, I think, the past half century. Then you have bassist Corey McCormick, and importantly, you have this drummer named Anthony Logerfo. Logerfo. I don't know a hell of a lot about this dude, except to say this. He is the reason this track rocks. Okay? This is the guy who makes this song such an explosive rocker. Anthony Logerfo. I have not heard drumming this explosive behind Neil Young since maybe 1989's EP El Dorado, which had some of the most incredible rockers of this man's entire life on it, especially Cocaine Eyes. The drums split that song in half, as they do on this one, Big Change, thanks to this dude, Anthony Logerfo, who I'm going to get to know a lot more after understanding the extent to which he contributes to this inferno of a new rock song that Neil Young has put out, Big Change, at age 79. Maybe when Neil Young did that Pearl Jam record, Mirrorball in 1995, a Neil Young album ostensibly, but Pearl Jam was his backing band. So you had Jack Irons on on that one. Back then, he was their drummer, not Matt Cameron. All right, so when you have great drumming behind a great artist like this in Neil, and then you add the blazing guitars of Micah and Neil himself, I mean, if you want to just hear in language what this song sounds like, I think one of the co-producers on this song, John Hanlon, says it best. He says that Big Change is in-your-face, loud, irreverent rock and roll paint splatter on the canvas in the vein of a Jackson Pollock painting. I couldn't have put it better myself, sir. It is a kick-ass rocker. Words are escaping me. This song, Big Change, the fact that this is possible for a man who's set to turn 80 years old on November 12th defies my comprehension. And by the way, also fascinating here is alongside John Hanlon, apparently at the console, is 91-year-old Lou Adler, who brought us like the Mamas and the Papas, Carole King's landmark album Tapestry in 1972, Jan and Dean, executive produced Rocky Horror Picture Show. That Lou Adler, who happens to be married to Paige Hanna, who is the sister of Neil Young's current wife, famed actress Daryl Hannah. So that's how Lou gets closer into Neil Young's orbit, it seems. And so Lou Adler at 91 gets co-producing credits on this in killer rock track recorded at Rick Rubin's Shangri-La studio in Malibu, California. Rubin, of course, produced Neil's last record, World Record, in 2022, which is a fine project, certainly not a bad album. And to me, I thought it was like the most you could expect of this guy, this grizzled rock veteran, rapidly nearing the doorstep of his 80s. No man his age has any business making rock music that's this fresh, this explosive, this lively, this urgent, this vital. As I rack my brain trying to think of who else at his age possibly could pull this off, maybe 77-year-old Iggy Pop comes to mind, okay? But when I heard the first few notes of Big Change explode out of my car stereo when I first queued this up, it took my breath away. I couldn't believe it. He had done it once again. He had made yet another latter-day Neil Young classic rocker. And like I said, this time it brought tears to my eyes for a couple reasons. I was thinking in part of how lucky we are that this man, months away from his 80th birthday, sees fit to even bother making music for us. And he does see it as that. He sees it as making music for us. There's this adorable quote of Neil's when he's talking about how excited he is to put the new record out that the Chrome Hearts have released. This Big Change is a single from this forthcoming record that Neil has said in the press he hopes gets released as soon as next month. We'll see. But he says, quote, "These songs feel fresh to me, and I am very happy to have all this ready for you. It won't be long now." Have this ready for you, like he's serving us still at nearly age 80. And so, in addition to my thought about how lucky we are that he's even bothering, I thought about the arc of this man's life at nearly age 80 while I was listening to Big Change. I mean, this is a guy who played the original Woodstock in 1969. This is a guy who knew Jimi Hendrix and Jimmy Page and was mingling with these dudes at the dawn of the rock era, right? This is a guy who spent years blaming himself for the drug overdose deaths of bandmates like Danny Whitten, events that inspired some of the most timeless songs of the last century, like Needle and the Damage Done. This is a guy who's got 2 children with cerebral palsy and has become a warrior in support of programs on behalf of children afflicted with that condition, like the Bridge School, the many Bridge School fundraising concerts he's put on over a period of decades now. Coming out with 1982's sort of electronica-tinged trans record, feeding his voice through a vocoder. Reports about that indicate that may in part have been inspired by attempts to communicate with his children that are ridden with cerebral palsy. This is a guy who captured a nation's disgust in 1970 following the Kent State massacres. It comes out with one of the most timeless rock anthems ever penned in Ohio with Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young in 1970. I've seen him perform that live acoustic and electric with CSNY at Madison Square Garden in 2000. And more recently in 2023 on his acoustic tour of the West Coast, solo acoustic tour. And then he does it again 36 years later with Living with War. Remember that record in 2006? During the George W. Bush days that in retrospect seem so quaint now. Remember how angry we were about a W? Woo, that seems like a long time ago now, doesn't it? And here he is, still churning out records, new and old at a breakneck pace. New and old at a breakneck pace. I say new and old because there was studio stuff, like apparently this Chrome Hearts record set to be released. But as you probably know, if you even have a casual fathoming of what Neil's been up to in the last 10, 20 years, I mean, lost albums, he puts out Chrome Dreams and Homegrown and these box sets, Archive Volume 2, Archive Volume 3 is in the works, or not out yet, right? But it will be. He's got this Coastal documentary coming out on April 17th in select theaters, done by his wife, Daryl Hannah, documenting that 2023 solo acoustic tour in which I saw him in Napa, California in the summer of 2023. I mean, I can't believe it. Where does this guy find the energy, dude? If I have 1/4 of this guy's energy at age 79, if I'm even alive by then, I'll be thrilled. How does he find this much creative vigor at this stage in his life? These are the thoughts that came to me as I was listening to this incredible single, Big Change, this booming, scorching, torrid rocker. So listen, just check out Big Change. I think it's the rock song of the year at this point. Not that it matters, as I alluded to previously, but I would love to see this track get that kind of attention at the Grammys in 2026. I would love to see Neil kick it out on the show, man. I mean, apparently the Oscars invited Bob Dylan to perform there last weekend, and he turned it down. Let's extend the same offer to Neil. Let's have him come on and see if he accepts. to perform Big Change. I think that'd be wonderful. This 80-year-old silver-haired rock pioneer. I mean, this is a guy who literally helped invent the genre. That's not hyperbolic. That is the fact. I mean, Neil Young was one of the people who had a hand in inventing rock and roll, in directing its course, known for so long by the moniker Godfather of Grunge. Well, now at nearly age 80, I think we comfortably can call him the great grandfather of rock and roll. But man, ain't no great grandfathers recording music this vital. This is an incredible track. If you even care a lick about real raw rock and roll, you will love this track. And you might listen to it with the same degree of disbelief that it engendered in me upon first listen. So that's why I queued up another video here at The Curious Listener today, because I keep coming back to Big Change as I'm driving around town. And every time I do, I feel compelled to bring the windows down, roll back that sunroof, put it on full blast, and just cruise, man. It's that kind of a rocker. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. I'm so grateful. And you will be too if you give it a shot. And by the way, if you've made it this far in the video, I will say something I've never said before in this channel, but I should be. Tap subscribe. I'd love to have you back again soon. I love talking with music with you. And I'd love to see you here next time because there's lots more music talk to come. And I hope you come along for the ride.